and welcome to Founderology Built to Break Through. My name is Kathleen Wood, and I'm the founder of Kathleen Wood Partners, a growth strategy firm dedicated to propelling founder-led businesses to new levels of success and scalability by unlocking their power and the possibilities of their business. I'm also the co-founder of the Founderology Growth Summit, the only event for visionary restaurant founders in the business to come together to connect, exchange, and accelerate their businesses. We're building unity through community. And today, I'm excited to welcome our guest, Brandon Knudsen, co-founder of Ziggi's Coffee with his wife, Camrin. And Brandon, welcome to the Founderology Built to Break Through podcast.
Kathleen, appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Brandon, we have so much to talk about, and today what I really wanted to talk about is, when I think about founders, I think sometimes founders gets kind of stuck in what I call the stuck zone, right? They're too big to be small and they're too small to be big. So now they're kind of stuck. And, one of the things we were talking about at the Founderology Growth Summit was what are the critical decisions that founders have to make as they're kind of going through their growth periods, but in every one of those growth periods, there's always this moment where you get a little stuck. And I was thinking about you and Camrin. You start out together in 2004, you get to 6 restaurants. By 2016, you're thinking, we're going to franchise. And now you're, over 100 locations, 20 states, more on the way. Mm-hmm. And you're also looking at new critical decisions to continue to keep your franchisees profitable and keep your concept, competitive. So today, I thought it'd be great if we had some discussion around some of those critical decisions. What do you think?
Let's do it. Sounds
All
fun
right.
to do.
So let's talk about the first time that you thought that you were in the stuck zone. Was it, where did you and Camrin feel like you had gotten stretched and it was time for you to make a decision because you couldn't stay where you were?
Well, I think as we started to franchise, I think one of the biggest challenges we had is when especially when the franchising side of it, you want to be everything to everyone, right? And every store still felt like my store, and I wouldn't let it go. I was taking every phone call. My wife was taking phone calls. I was trying to solve every issue for them, and our team was doing the same thing. And we were all trying to be experts on everything. And I think one of the biggest, most critical decisions we made was, and this is all on the franchising side of things, was really to streamline our support of our franchisees. If we would have, we spent 2 or 3 years of all of us trying to learn everything, and then we get on and we would, we wasted hundreds of hours a week just talking to each other and sharing. And so what we all tried to do is truly put ourselves in silos and try to really be experts. We each expert in a thing. And then we also created an amazing ticketing system that really allowed, and it wasn't even expensive. We used Teams, like Microsoft has it built in. Put a ticket in and it directs to the right person. What that did for us and for the franchisees was game changing. But early on, you just feel, especially as founders, like I'm just going to jump on and fix it. And it's just it's not manageable.
Right. Okay. So Brandon, we're going to hit on systemizing for scalability for sure, because that's a topic I personally love. Yep. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. The founder wanted to answer every single question and take care of everybody, right? Mm-hmm. And before we go there, though, I wanted to ask you this one question. What made you and Camrin decide to franchise? Because you had a lot of success. You had 6 restaurants. Yep. You've been at it for 12 years. So what was the critical decision that you made when you're like, hey, we're going to franchise now?
Well, everybody kept bugging me to help them open their own. This is where it started. This was not like, hey, we've got 6, let's franchise and grow our business that way. It was like everybody wanted free advice. And my wife was like, if you talk to one more person for free, and then I tried to charge somebody like $50 an hour they're like, I'm not paying you that. And then my wife was like, look, if you're going to do any more than that, we need to look at another way to do this. And so that's what we met with a friend of mine, that's still my partner, Tommy Thwaites. He had a connection in the franchising world, and we met, was like, let's just go that route. It really kind of forced itself on us as opposed to having this amazing business plan.
Right. So you had people coming to you asking for advice so they could open up their own coffee place to be a competitor to you.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And we even started by, we looked at, we're like, ooh, and I researched some like Quiznos stuff, and I started with not the success stories. I went with the ones like, oh, well, don't do that. And so we actually licensed a store to start. And so we didn't make any money off. We didn't charge any fees. Said, hey, you're not going to pay us anything. Let's just see if we can do this. Boy, we couldn't. And we're like, okay, we are not ready for this yet.
Right. What made you realize that you weren't ready to do it at that point when you did the licensing agreement?
we didn't have the systems in place. Like my wife and I were, she was still creating the schedule. I was still training people. Like, Danny, my VP now, was just training. Like there wasn't a training in LMS. There was none of those things that we thought we were really good at, but we realized like it was just us executing on it. And unless you have the processes, there's no way to scale.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I talk a lot about with founders is like, look, you can be great at building operations and opening restaurants, but at a certain point, you have to decide that you're going to build a company that opens restaurants, and you're going to have to, put systems in place that not just reflect what you know, but are scalable for others to learn, right? And I think it really puts a lot of pressure on founders sometimes because they're like, what do you mean I got to put all that down? And it's like, you have to in order to get the scalability.
No question. It was about a year and a half that about a year we went with it. So we started with that. We started with the license. We're like, oh boy. Okay. And then we're like, all right, well, how do we get to the point where we actually have a business model, not a business concept that people can replicate? So what we did then is like, all right, let's make our managers our franchisees. Let's see if they can hire their own people. Let's see if don't answer the phone. Don't like, sorry, not available. See if you can see if the things that we had in the store, the checklist, the resources worked, and they didn't. And as it got better and better, like, okay. And as we moved into middle of 2016, we're like, okay, we feel like and we weren't ready yet. I'll just be honest with you. We were more ready than we were before, but we felt like that really kind of got us to a point where we can start to work our way through these processes.
Oh my gosh, Brandon, I hope everyone just took that as like a golden nugget. I know you started in Colorado. We should do a little acknowledgement, but a golden nugget that, hey, try it out first on your own team to see if you can, A, let go of control yourselves, B, see if your systems really can hold up to it. And, and then I think the C about that is then see if your operators can be self-sufficient without you having to come in and do the interventions. I mean, I love that. I mean, that's a heck of a better way to test out everything before you spend an inordinate amount of money to figure it out that way too.
Listen, if you're going to sell a franchise, you're going to charge a fee, which we charge $40,000 plus a launch fee, and charge a royalty. You should know what you're doing first, and you should test it on. You should be the one to use. I should use my money to see if this works. Then I'm selling something that's been proven, and we've gone all the way through the process with.
Right. No, I love that. And along the way, you're doing exactly what you need to be doing, building systems that scale.
Yep.
So then when you start franchising, what's the critical decision that happens then? Because now you and Camrin are into it at this point. It's 2016 and you're starting a franchise and, and still very founder centric, right? So what's the critical decision that gets made to have you all realize, hey, we should become specialists and we should focus on what we do best. And that's how we can best provide support.
Yeah, oh gosh. So like our first franchise, we sold, Steve and Jill Anderson, the most wonderful people. They've got, I think, 7 stores now. I went on the drive with the realtor to find the location. I sat through the planning department meetings. I went to the site every day for construction. So like, that's where it started. And it was probably 3 years before we backed off of that sort of thing. Like that was like when we realized on my phone, when I was working 15 hours a day, which the whole point of this was not to do that anymore. I was like, okay, we've got to allow some of our other people to get in here. Again, not just create processes for baristas, but create process for development, for real estate, for those sort of things. So we're probably, I bet it was 2019 before we really started, okay, now we need to put people in places to support. It can't just be me doing everything.
Right. I think that's part of one of the things I love about founders is that founders believe they can do anything and everything. So, so just tell me, I'll do it. I can do it. Don't worry. But again, it comes back to this idea that I love what you said. You're building a business, not opening concepts. And I think there's a mind shift that has to happen. What kind of drove you to the mind shift of saying, whoa, we have got to put infrastructure in place to support these franchisees?
I was doing a bad job. I mean, plain and simple. Like I couldn't do it all. Like there's just no way. It wasn't manageable. I wasn't able to get to everybody. And I found myself not returning texts and not returning phone calls and slipping through the cracks. And it wasn't the product that I wanted to see. And so at that point, like we've got to put more systems. I've got to let my team go I've got to let them make mistakes. They're going to make mistakes, which is really hard because you want to fix everything for them. And you got to let them go lead because if you're going to hire a person, you got to trust them to do the job.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So what do you think was the first area that was, at this point, well, in 2019, how many franchisees did you have going?
Oh God, only a few. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what was the first area where you felt the tension and you're like, we got to fix this one first. This one is getting way out of control.
Well, I approached it earlier. I may have jumped the gun a tad there, but that was just the support. Like, how do we support them? Because there's so many questions. That was one of the bigger challenges. Now, again, it's almost like franchisees, and they're going to listen and maybe get upset with me. That's okay. They're almost like the employees. Like, if you answer every text about every little thing, they will rely on you for every little thing, and they will not do it themselves. Like, you got to kind of teach them to fish, if you will, right? So that was definitely one of the early challenges we had to get through.
Yeah, and when you think about that support, I'm assuming, let me just make sure I'm correct, is that, it was support about everything relative to the operations, customer. I mean, it wasn't like one specific area that they needed support. They needed support in the entire business. Is that correct?
Oh, it was like, my employees said this to me, or man, they won't show up on time, or, a customer's upset about this, or, hey, the point of sale system went down. It's like, well, you've got a 1-800 number. But because we help so much, and founders back off earlier, and force them to learn themselves, and then get a recap afterwards. But you're so intent as a founder. My job is to fix everything. You brought it up earlier. Don't do that early on. Just trust the franchisees. You go try yourself, and if you can't figure it out, then I'll be there to help you. And it feels a little bit like tough love. It is tough love, and they might be mad at you in the moment, but they'll love you later because they can actually run their own business.
Right. I do the analogy of having a personal trainer, right? Like, you hire this person, they're going to be the personal trainer. You're working with them, but every time you work with them, they pick up all the weights and you stand there talking, right? Mm-hmm. And then at a certain point, then you get mad at the personal trainer because you're not seeing any results. And they're like, I've been picking up the weights the whole time.
Yep.
So it does feel like tough love, but it's so important because that's how they build the muscle to literally run, operate, and lead their businesses.
And founders are going to listen to that and hear that, and they're still going to do it. Like, I can't stress it enough, you guys. Just be okay with them. And I coach a lot of youth basketball. Like, I set my team up to fail all the time. Like, you got to fail to get better. You got to do it and put yourself out there in order for you to make progress.
No, I tell you, I again, another golden nugget. And I think it's the hardest thing, right? So as you and Camrin started letting go, because Camrin was doing operations, you were building the company, right? As you and Camrin started letting go of it, and I think that's the other fallacy too. Letting go does not mean that you're let go and you're abdicating and you're not involved. It just means that you're now kind of you're letting go for people to pick up their own weight, so to speak, right? So as you and Camrin are doing, both of you are doing that in your respective areas. How did you fight the resist, jumping in when things didn't start, when things potentially were going in a different direction than you wanted it to go?
It's really hard. It's even hard to answer, and it's case by case. It's her and I supporting each other and saying, you've got to trust that franchisee. You got to trust that person on the team to do this. And I think it's in stages, right? Like, it's easy to say, just cut it off and just let them do it. That's not the right way. It's slowly letting the leash out, right? So, all right, Danny, my VP, now you're going to have the vendor call and negotiate the price this time. I'm not going to be on the call with you, but I want to see it before we sign it, right? Now she's 16 years in. I check in once a quarter. If there's a really hard deal, it might come to my desk. But it's slowly letting that leash out and trust but verify early on. And then eventually you have people on your team that you can just let them go, fill me in later on the challenges. But it takes some time.
No, I love that, trust and verify. So as you're growing and now you're like, hey, we have to start bringing some people on the team, or we have to start building a team that can support our franchise growth. What did the structure look like early on, and who did you bring on, and when did you bring them on?
That was the hardest thing and the biggest mistakes I made, and I say mistakes, but also I'm really proud of how we've built this. For a long time, it was friends and family, which is almost every founder. Kathleen, you're probably
100%.
No,
right.
But also, it also is what makes us unique is we have such a great culture. Because again, our vice president of operations was a barista. She was a teacher. I hired her. She called. We were baristas together 16 years ago. She ran the register. I made the drinks. That's our relation. Now she's the VP of the company. She's amazing. I think that's really important. But especially in a founder-led company like this, and I would say she's as much of a founder as my wife and I, you get way too close to see it, right? The things that aren't going well. And so there's just so much, there's so many people that have been around the bend that know, and we're working so hard to make it up, but we want to do it our way. It's like, but also the thing is, Kathleen, we have no private equity, we have no investors. We
Right.
bootstrap this whole thing. And so
Unbelievable.
you go out to town, you're like, yeah, you want a COO. Yeah, they're 400 grand and they want 10% of your business. Hell no, I'm not doing that. But I
Right.
really need their talent. And so the big breakthrough, I didn't even learn this word until about 3 years ago, fractional, right?
Yeah.
Fractional and consultants. It's amazing when you have an incredible team that can execute. You still need that high level strategy you're not going to get from your team within, period. Sorry. Now, there's some great strategy. I have some really talented people, don't get me wrong. But we need people that have been there and done that and seen what works and what doesn't work, bringing in ideas. And you can do that on 4 hours a week, 8 hours a week that actually is manageable as you grow. Then you take your team of friends and family and some other folks we brought in, and then you execute at a high level.
Yeah. I think that that's the interesting thing. I think that when a founder decides to, to your point, Brandon, make the shift, right? You really do. Like, I have a lot of discussions about this. You really have to make sure that you don't have the friends and family or the manager in a leadership role, right? I'm all about put leaders in leadership roles and you'll move faster. They'll add more value. You'll make better decisions. You'll have less mistakes. But the hard part is when you have friends and family or just a really great employee and you're like, well, and they should be the VP of this. Okay, well, are they qualified? Do they have the skills and the capabilities? Well, no, but they're great people and they're really passionate about it. I'm like, yes, that's gonna slow the train and we want to accelerate it. So you found success with fractional leaders. So
Yep.
who was your first fractional leader that you brought on?
Well, I brought a CFO, which is a job that I did not want to give up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a job that, we just were so disorganized from a high level as a company. You don't realize it. I mean, I got a nice P&L that looks like again, founders will understand. I got a nice little beautiful P&L for my stores. And I tried to make the same P&L for a franchise company. Well, that doesn't work. It's way more deferred revenues and breakage and all these other things. I'm like, I don't know. I drank beer in college. I mean, I'm a barista. Let's just call it what it is. So bringing in a fractional CFO was really, really big for us. And then the next was Stacy Kane. We brought her in. She's our fractional CMO. And just from a culture, and she just like moved pieces around for us. Like she didn't even really bring any new people. Just, well, they're both doing this and they're fighting. Just put her here and him over here. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't see, back to my point, I was too close to see it.
Right.
And also we have this
Right.
relationship. It's hard to do that. She's just like, do this and do this. Change the culture overnight.
So as you're bringing these people on, obviously it's shifting what you've been working on. So a lot of times I hear is like, hey, Kathleen, if we bring in these people, what am I going to do then? What happens to me? And so for you, Brandon, what happened to you when you're bringing on the CFO, when you're bringing on Stacy, what happens to your role at that point?
Well, I have more time to focus on the things that I'm really good at. Now, again, this is really hard for me. Like, I want to control everything. I want to have my hand in it. I don't want to execute on anything. I don't want to write the email or bring the presentation. I just want to make the decision. That's a really hard thing. And now I see them, and I mean, I see execution of certain things that I haven't even seen the presentation on, and it gives me heart palpitations. But you have to let go. And if you're going to hire someone that's talented, you got to let them run a little bit. But letting that go as a founder, it's going to take a couple of years I'm just telling you, it is not going to happen overnight, and I don't think you should, because, we've made some mistakes. You talk about bringing talent in. We've also hired some people that with great resumes that we didn't stress test the culture, and that can turn things upside down quickly. And my recommendation is you bring someone, I don't care how good they are at their job. If they bring the overall culture down, fire them quick, move on to somebody else. So they need to check both boxes equally.
Yeah. My friend Jim Knight wrote a book, Leadership That Rocks. And in it, he talks about the 3 C's, right? One is that they have to be capable, competent, and culturally a fit. And if they're not, there's nothing quicker that takes it down than having they could be capable and competent, but it does not mean that they are a cultural fit. And to your point, that when you're kind of small and trying to grow, the profound effects that has, I don't think people always realize how much it actually costs in terms of time and money, but also to go back and reset the tape, so to speak, after the tape's been blown up.
Well, and when you're at our size, you'd love to say we have a 24-month plan for business and we just execute. That's just not the world we're living in right now, right? Like
Right.
we don't have enough people to strategize. Right now it's like, protein is like a huge thing. Like,
Right.
we kind of saw it coming, but it's like, guys, we have 3 weeks to roll this out. You have to have people that handle that level of stress. I mean, it's a fire
Right.
drill every day in the restaurant business. And
Right. Right.
just because you're talented and you look good on paper doesn't mean you can handle that stress
Right.
in the right way. That is just our business. And if you don't enjoy that, whew,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, you have to find a way to be part of the solution and to find a way to evolve the system so that the
Yep.
system can scale where you're like, I think about it like a roller coaster, right? It's always going to be a roller coaster when you're growing a business. We just want to have it not be up and down huge, but more
Yep.
like this. And bringing in leadership that knows how to kind of calm the roller coaster down helps significantly with speed and just movement of getting things done, right?
Well, and what I'd say to folks that just don't have the budget, like at the end of the day, like I'd love to hire 3 or 4 more people, but like, we got to make money too. Like, don't be afraid to hire a consultant for 2 weeks and just take what you can, let them go. Spend $3,000, get feedback from somebody, go to a Founderology and talk to like you need to do those sort of things for yourself because you do not have the answers. And if you've not been around the bend and you don't have someone that has, you're blowing it.
Yeah. Well, and Brandon, I just want to say thanks for that shout out for consultants. Considering my practice, I appreciate
Yep.
that. But I also agree
And you
with
and I
you
don't
about
work together, by the way. It's not a shameless plug.
that's true.
but
That true.
Not yet.
And I think the other side of it is like going to Founderology, where you could be with founders for 2.5 days, listening to other founders about how they built their I mean, come on, man, make the investment in yourself so you could scale it too. I just love that, and I agree with you. I think there's people. I work with a myriad of different consultants who are experts at what they do because they can come in, make the impact, move on. And I think there's something, very powerful about that when you're trying to scale a business.
Well, and I'll say this to conferences. Like, I feel like conferences sometimes just a reason to sit at the bar till 1 a.m. That's a lot of conferences. But I'll tell you what, and I go back, like I'll look at the conferences I've been to, I'm like, did I really learn something new? A lot of times, no. But what I have done is it's brought things that I know I should be focused on back to the top of back to the surface. And like, oh my gosh, I know that, again, when you're a founder, you're wearing so many hats. Just go to those, even if it's for a day, and listen. Have a consultant for a couple of days, and they're just going to remind you the things you kind of probably know a little bit already, but then you'll refocus on those.
I love it. Refresh, renew, refocus. Let's go.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So Brandon, now that you're kind of out of the startup stage for sure, you're out of the startup franchise stage for sure.
Yep.
You've got over 100 locations and 20 states and many more coming. Now, as the founder, where do you think your critical decisions sit today relative to now the kind of hockey stick of growth that's happening?
Well, our biggest challenge, I think, is regionality, right? First of all, we've got a ton of competition in the coffee space, right? So I want to try to keep it broad for all the businesses. We have to understand our competition. And there's a lot of great, very expensive tools out there to understand it. So I think understanding your competition, understanding markets is, I know Longmont in Northern Colorado. Like I can go anywhere, I'll tell you exactly what. You start dropping in Michigan and Southern California, all these other things. That is a real challenge. And that is something that we're facing is how to price things. It's not a 5% increase, a 10% increase. This can go up because in this market, this particular one drink, you can charge X for versus the competition, right? And all of a sudden in Michigan, they love chorizo burritos. Like we were going to get rid of chorizo burritos. And Michigan's like, hold on. They love them up here. It's a favorite. So the regionality, and so bringing in talent and using all the data out there, and there's incredible technology out there that'll help you with that. It's just going to cost some money. But that is the thing we're facing right now is understanding each one of these individual markets and setting those guys up for success.
Yeah. Is there a particular technology that you like right now, Brandon, that you're using to help you kind of understand those markets at a deeper level?
Well, right now we've used SiteZeus for quite some time to help predict. And that's been that's a nice piece of software that, again, it's only as good as the data that's put into it. And we only have about 109 stores that are in it. So again, you go to a new market that it's never seen before. It's like, well, I think it's good. We're really looking at Signal Flare right now. We're really excited from that. I think that's incredible technology. We're really close to signing with them. And that's at a really deep level of understanding. I mean, you're talking every menu item, the whole ticket, the whole basket, if you will. Those are the kind of technologies, when you start getting over 100 locations, you have to tap in because you cannot do the long math on this yourself. I've tried, and there's not enough hours in the day.
No, no. I mean, I'll say this, like in my practice, we have these natural break points, right? So our natural break points are like, if you haven't been investing in your infrastructure, in your systems, in your processes, that when you get close to 100, it's either going to be your opportunity to springboard growth or your opportunity to implode. And it sounds like for you, you've put yourself in a position to continue to springboard growth because you've been investing in infrastructure systems and really looking for the best solutions. And because it's very rare for anybody to get over 100 units, but to get over 100 and keep it growing where you don't have to stop and start all over again is even rarer. So congratulations to you and the team. I mean, that's a phenomenal accomplishment. Seriously, a phenomenal, especially over 20 states. Phenomenal accomplishment.
Thank you. I would say this is kind of a piece of advice on the tech. I've signed up with some real, and I won't name any names, some great tech that when I started with them and signed, say, a 3 or 4 year deal to get better pricing, which is very appealing. Tech evolves so quickly. Some of those that I'm stuck paying have not, they got rid of the engineers, they got bought out, they sunsetted, but you got to keep paying them. So be very, very careful with long-term contracts with tech companies because, man, it goes quickly.
Oh my God. Well, we are in the shifting sand zone right now with AI and what it can bring to the table too, especially, as we see other applications of tech. So I think that's another golden nugget right there, Brandon.
Well, the other shout out to, we're looking at Ziggi as well. I think that their platform's phenomenal. For tracking customers and their behaviors. And, again, if you're in our business, especially in coffee, we need that third visit for that customer. We got to get there. And what drinks drive to that third visit? That those. I don't care what business you're in. You get to a third time, you got a real chance to keep those people. And the technology now is just going to tell you literally if you can get them to order our shaken espresso the first time, there's a 70% likelihood they come back a third time. That data is out there, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and neither one of us, work for Ziggi, but both of us really do. I have clients that are doing very, very well, and I'm glad you're looking at them too. So that's fantastic. Hey, Brandon, as you and Camrin have been, really building up the company and scaling it, have you ever had the concern about, wow, as we're going into new markets and we're having to expand our menu, are we diluting our brand right now, or are we accretively adding to our brand? Do you ever have those kind of conversations?
Only every day.
I love it.
That's a really interesting question. I think from a menu standpoint, like coffee is really unique. So my goal is to, obviously most of the people on here aren't coffee people, but it's the competition and the economy that's really made things very interesting. Again, coffee's turned into like a value play right now. The brands that are kicking everyone's butt right now are very inexpensive. I didn't say cheap, but they're cheap. But that's okay. It's playing really well. I mean, at the end of the day, the AUVs are AUVs. And so adjusting to that, keeping to your core, but also adjusting to the economy has just been, you talk about a roller coaster. You got to stay on top of those things too. So we want to stay true to our core brand, and what we are is we're a service business, and we need to keep that in mind. We are a service business. We are there. People can make coffee at home. They can make dirty sodas at home, those sort of things. If we stay true to authentic customer service, and that's, I don't care what business you're in. We're all in the service business. I don't care if you're a consultant, you're in the business of making me happy, right? And I want to enjoy my interaction with you. I think the rest falls into place, but it's very easy to get stuck on, well, dirty soda is going to fix it. I mean, dirty soda is going to give you a bump, but then when they come in, you got to kick ass and give great service and make that a memorable experience. And that's easy to lose sight of as you grow.
Yeah, I think that is such a key point, right? Like there are people out there competing for the ticket, but losing sight that it's the experience that what is really driving the ticket, right? And I do think that, especially when you're in a competitive marketplace, as you are and you're in a competitive space, how do you continue to instill that the key to everyone's short-term and long-term success has to do with, staying focused on service, especially when they're saying, well, look, we've got this pressure, this pressure, this pressure. We've got to get drive-through times. We've got to do all this. How do you keep that top of mind for everybody?
I don't have the answer to that, Kathleen, because I'm not winning across the board at this, and I'll always be transparent with you. Franchisees, especially, we're in the first quarter, right? It's really hard, right? It's easy to just spend your whole day buried in your P&L. and shipping cost and 5 cents on this and 5 cents on this. And we have a all franchisee call every other month. And I always lead with this. Or a franchisee calls, hey, I need help. I'm struggling with this, or I'm not comping. I'm like, the first question I ask, Kathleen, is when's the last time you were in your store?
Oh, that's a good question.
And the answer is never like, yeah, but it's like, no. When's the last time you went in your store for 4 or 5 straight hours, stood by the window and watched your customer service? Until you do that, don't talk to me. Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk. Tough love. This is a customer service business. And then I can go back. We do mystery shops that we pay for, and they go at least once a month. They have struggling stores every week. And I'll just show, like, I don't care about if you're out of product. I do. But, like, how was the service? Was it unique? And I make these mystery shoppers, like, did they create a dialogue? Did they say hello right away? Was it authentic? It is the hardest thing. I don't know what the magic pill is for this yet, but I just talk to them blue in the face. And the franchisees that are doing really well, that are comping really positive, have phenomenal customer service. And I just try to continually highlight those to everyone else.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I love what you're saying. And I think you have to keep it at the tippity top of the mind because, with the dynamic economy that we're in, we are in an experienced economy. So like when you read the headlines of, trade magazines and it says so-and-so is focusing back on operational excellence. So-and-so is focusing on hospitality. I'm always like, oh my gosh, it's newsworthy, right? Because you're like, wow, operational excellence is that's fantastic. Hospitality, that's great. But also to your point though, Brandon, when you look at who's winning in the marketplace, come on, the service, it is an experience. So if I want to sit out there, I could spend untold dollars in ads on social media and have no idea what I'm going to get in return, or maybe I do, or maybe I don't, or maybe there's a mix of all of it in there. But I do know, that I could also just do great customer service and I could see trial go up, traffic go up, frequency go up, and I could see all the metrics an average check go up. And so, I don't think there is a silver bullet, but I do think there is that intentional focus, almost fanatical focus on great customer service, because that right now is winning in any segment. That's the competitive differentiator. So I love that you're just starting every call with it. You're staying hungry about it, and you're keeping everyone focused on it. Because I do think that's going to separate the good from the great going forward right now.
Yeah, look at any great company. Look at Seven Brew and Dutch Bros. Like, I'm gonna own it. Like, those guys give phenomenal service. Do I think our product's better than them? I know we do. We're going out to colleges and we're doing sampling, and like they can't see, and we're winning, but their AUVs are better. So when we talk about it, like, what's the difference, you guys? Well, they're doing a great job with service, and so you have to look at Chick-fil-A, like look at Raising Cane's, like it's a great experience, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something we in our really great stores have really great service, and our stores that are not. And here's the other thing I think is this thing for people to think about is, especially a franchisor, but even if it's your own business, when things aren't going the way you want to go pour a bunch of money into advertising and marketing. And that's fine. But at the end of the day, our term around here is when someone comes and say, hey, so-and-so wants to spend $1,000 ad, what do you think? I'm like, well, is the house in order? And the house in order is, are they crushing? Are they getting 100% on their mystery shop customer service? Is the owner in the store every day? Otherwise, stop pouring money into that. Like, get in your store, and it's slow, Kathleen, right? It's like, I know, but like when I did this last time, I got a big bump of business. I said, well, how was the next 2 weeks? Did they come back? No, you just wasted money and gave away a discount. So really important to get your house in order and make sure that level of service. Then you can, turn on the faucet of marketing.
Yeah. And Brandon, if I put a finer point on this, the best form of marketing is great operations. Mm-hmm. And no one ever wins by cutting their costs to sales. I mean, you only win
it's a slow death, Kathleen.
Right. Come on, man. Yes. Yep. I love it. Mm-hmm. Brandon, I know you and I could talk forever, which is so cool too. And, but believe it or not, the time goes so fast on Founderology Built to Break Through. And you've laid down some really great insights today. I love this idea of, letting go, but trust and verify. I love the idea of, understanding that you need to provide strategic support, not general support to everyone. Also, I love the critical decisions that you were making along the way, and I think one of the other things that I just give you huge credit for, and you talk about it all the time, is that, one of your sole focuses is ensuring that your franchisees are successful. And I think that again, that's a very big competitive differentiator, especially in today's world.
Mm-hmm.
So for all the founders that are listening right now, that are sitting there and they're 3 to 5 units right now, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, 100, or oh my gosh, 100 and 100's more coming.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the one thing that you would tell them to, sometimes when we all get stuck, it does kind of suck to be in the middle there. But what would you tell that founder that might find themselves stuck at this moment that they could do to help them move forward and not lose sight of their vision?
Yeah, I think you're reinventing the wheel in terms of like you have a unique business to you, but you're not reinventing the world of building a brand, right? There's so many talented people out there that have done this. You don't have to be a hero and come up with it all on your own. Go get some freaking help. Understand, and then I'm going to use an example. Like my son was a basketball player. Like he played college basketball, right? So he was in like 6th grade. He's like, I want to play in the NBA. It's like, okay, well, you're 5. You're going to be 5'10" because your mom's short and I'm not that tall. Okay, it's not saying you can't do it. You go find someone like you that went through the process, and I want you to tell me exactly from that grade to the pros, what was the path like, right? It's the exact same thing in business. It's like, go talk to, if you're in the chicken space, go look at Raising Cane's, what they did. Like they started with culture and they built, like, this has been done before. Like go look at how many people they have on their team. And again, if you're trying to make a whole bunch of money year 2 and 3 at 20, 30, 40 stores, you are out of your mind. It is 100 plus stores before you really get money. So just be okay with that. Makes you have the cash flow to do that. Hire a great team to support. Don't worry about throwing a bunch of EBITDA to the bottom line the first couple of years. Because if you're making a lot of money early on, in my opinion, as a franchisor, you're not reinvesting in your Z's, and then you're not going to get to that 100 stores. It's been my experience.
Yeah, successful franchisees attract successful franchisees all day long. And you definitely have proven that model. You're proving that model every day, to be honest with you. I mean, so that's fantastic. And I think really great advice, right? Take the time and invest in your system, invest in your business, invest in your infrastructure, and invest in what matters most to be successful. And I think you nailed it right there. And Brandon, I think for people that are listening to this podcast, now they can see why you and Camrin were part of our inaugural Visionary Restaurant Founders Award group, because it's this level of dedication, right? I think being a founder is not for everybody, right? It's also like, it's not for the faint of heart, but it's so inspiring and so motivating. And I know that there are founders out there right now that are thinking, oh my gosh, but after they listen to this and they take these golden nuggets that you've laid down, I feel like they'll be inspired and motivated. And they too someday will, look to be like a visionary restaurant founder such as yourself.
Well, I appreciate it. And the last thing I'll say is, especially when you get to this point right now, it is the hardest thing right now is there's going to be stores that struggle and that don't make it. I don't care who you are and what business you're in. It is really hard as a founder. You got to take time to focus on the ones that are doing great too and enjoy those successes. It's something I've really struggled with personally over the last year. I think about the 3 or 4 or 5 stores that aren't where they need to be, or, those sort of things. And I kind of tend to like shift all my focus on that. There's also some people that are just crushing it. So give yourself a little bit of grace, give it everything you have, but be patient with yourself as well.
Yeah, that's sometimes one of the hardest things in the whole journey, right?
Almost impossible. Yep.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to do a mic drop on that because that was perfect. Give yourself some grace, find some patience, and keep moving it forward. And Brandon, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your wisdom, but really, thanks for sharing your real stories with your real solutions and your real strategies that people can use. And we appreciate you spending time here with us today. And we wish you and Camrin and the whole team good luck as you continue to bring Ziggi's out to across the nation, which we're very excited to see. And if you've been listening, continue to tune in. We're looking forward to having more real conversations, real stories, and real solutions that are brought to you by real founders like Brandon, an award-winning visionary restaurant founder. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Until then, continue to build your brand to break through.